It's a real simple question. Has Antonio Brown lost his damn mind? What is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back to the next episode of Fantasy Headliners. Myself and the DFS wizard himself, Mr. Ryan O'Connell, join me today, and we're talking about Antonio Brown and what the heck is going on with Antonio Brown, Ryan.
What's going on, Jake? Headliner Nation, how are we doing out there today, guys? Honestly, I feel like we're doing an episode from the Kremlin today because all these cryptic tweets Antonio's putting out there, honestly, he's probably hanging out with Josh Gordon too much because he has definitely lost his mind.
It's kind of happened really quickly, too. I mean, he's gone through that weird bleached facial hair looking look, and he's wants to be referred to as Mr. Big Chest, and I have no idea what the heck that means, and I don't care to really find out. It's a drama in Pittsburgh, and I don't understand it. You mentioned it right before we went on camera. Like, how do you let two generational talents like Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown turn into what it has turned into? And it's a huge headache, I'm sure, for a lot of fans, a lot of people watching from the outside. But it kind of just makes me think that there's something like mentally not stable there in that locker room.
I definitely have to agree with you there. It's like Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It seems like there's probably less drama on that show than with Antonio Brown. I don't know what caused him to go to this extreme. There's obviously more going behind the scenes than we actually know about, but whether it's with Tomlin, or it sounds like a lot of it stems from Roethlisberger. And if you have that kind of problem with your quarterback who's throwing you the ball, you're not going to have that kind of chemistry. And I think he's kind of butthurt, to be honest, that Juju stepped up his game and kind of took over that spotlight.
Yeah, and it's possible, but what's weird about it is it's not like Antonio just disappeared this year. He had a great season still. I mean, he put up huge numbers, one of the tops, in the NFL in targets and touchdowns and yardage. It's not like he was just the forgotten guy this year, and he still, I think, took it as, well, they're slowly starting to hand the reins off to Juju. I might as well just leave because that's what their plan is, which is too bad because, I mean, together combined, Antonio and Juju is probably the best 1-2 punch in football as far as receivers as of right now. In my opinion, I mean, there's very few that maybe challenge that. I can't
think of any others that could even come close to that.
No, so, I mean, they're both top 10 talents. I mean, you could possibly get up there close to maybe Diggs and Thielen, maybe. I mean, I don't know, but that's all.
The closest comparison there is out there.
Yeah, and it's hard to think that Bell's going to be gone probably. Antonio Brown wants to be gone. He's going to have to be traded. But that's what we're going to talk about today. Is there's a few teams out there that have the possibility of going out and acquiring an Antonio Brown. The biggest question mark with this is, does he want to win or does he want to be the man and chase the money? Because there's not a whole lot of teams out there that are Super Bowl ready that he can go to that have the money that he wants. One, and which is what we're going to start off with, is the Indianapolis Colts. And we did another video on Le'Veon Bell and the potential of him going to the Colts. They actually have enough cap space to sign both Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. Now, do they want to deal with that headache in the locker room in Indianapolis? It's a little bit differently run organization, I have a feeling, and I don't know if they're ready for that type of distraction, but we can talk about it here for a second. What do you think if both of them, what are the chances that both of them go to Indianapolis?
I give it about a 5% chance, but if you have the cojones to do that, I mean, you big cojones. You're putting yourself in the position to potentially win the Super Bowl, just to be honest. I mean, you got T.Y. Hilton, you got all those talents that we always talk about when you're referring to the Indianapolis Colts. You bring in Le'Veon Bell and you bring in a premier talent like Antonio Brown. Sign me up all day. But I don't know if that's really the chemistry you want, because T.Y.'s been the guy. Him and Andrew Luck have the chemistry and obviously the history. So now you're almost like force-feeding the ball to Antonio just to, hey, come on, buddy. You're part of the club now. So I don't know if that'll really work out. Yeah,
that would be one of those things where if he wants to go somewhere and win. Now, obviously, he doesn't get to choose where he goes. Like I said, he has to be traded. But they have some pieces that they could send over there. The next team that is intriguing to talk about is Green Bay. They have enough cap space to go out there and sign an Antonio Brown or trade for an Antonio Brown. They have 2 first-round draft picks. Could they possibly trade the 30th overall pick into the first round to Pittsburgh and acquire Antonio Brown? That's something where another one of those teams that would become instant Super Bowl contenders, but he's not the man because Davante Adams is still there.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about him trying to humble himself, and whether the teams that are possibly going to trade for him think that he's willing to do that. Otherwise, you're just going to pay for a guy to kind of sell the seats. That's what it's ultimately going to come down to, because he's a 30-year-old elite wide receiver, one of the best in the league. But how many years do you really have with Antonio being that top guy? That's the question I would be asking. What are our goals for the organization? Now, for me, with Green Bay, you have 2 first-round picks. You got what it takes to acquire him. You have the cap space to do it. And for heaven's sake, let's get Aaron Rodgers back in the Super Bowl. I mean, or at least the playoffs. So I would definitely take a shot if I was Green Bay, but it's going to be tough whether he can humble himself enough to actually fit into that team.
Right. And one other destination out there that is kind of the best of both worlds for Antonio. They have the cap space, and they don't have the man there right now, and that's San Francisco. He could go to San Francisco, be paired up with Jimmy G and George Kittle. They got Jerick McKinnon coming back, which I know a lot of people are hopping off the Jerick McKinnon bandwagon. I am not yet. I do agree that it doesn't really matter who's back there. I mean, they were getting productive fantasy days from Raheem Mostert, Alfred Morris. I mean, there's guys out there that are putting up numbers that, were respectable, and a lot of that goes to Kyle Shanahan's, offense. So I'm not hopping off Jerick McKinnon. Now all of a sudden they have a few pieces there in San Francisco, because they're going to have to build something up there if they're going to compete with the Rams year in and year out in that division.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think this is probably the top choice landing spot for Antonio Brown. It's going to fit his needs, so he can be Mr. Big Chest or whatever he wants to call himself. I mean, like I said before, he's frankly hanging out with Josh Gordon too much, and he needs to come back down to earth so he can actually have value in this offseason and get traded. I know he's been throwing a big fuss, and he's talked to the owner, Art Rooney, about getting traded, and they both agree it's time to move on. So the 49ers would be a great fit, and you team him up with Jimmy G, he would get that kind of elite production that he's used to and wants. And from a fantasy purpose standpoint, sign me up. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, those are probably the biggest names, the biggest teams who are floating around out there. We've talked about the Colts, the Packers, and the 49ers. If you had to go with one dark horse team right now, something that's really not in the news but has the cap space and possibly the assets to go out there to acquire them, who would you take as a dark horse pick?
It'd obviously have to be the Raiders. They have so many draft picks. They have a bunch of capital to spend, so his salary wouldn't be no problem to him. They could give him the guarantees he wants, and he'd be the man. But what else do you really have to offer? I hope John Gruden is smart enough that he traded all these assets away to actually rebuild that team. So signing a 30-year-old drama queen is not really the smartest move. But, we've seen John Gruden do some crazy stuff before, so that would definitely be my dark horse pick.
Yep, absolutely. If I had to choose one dark horse, I would say Arizona. And I don't even know why I'm saying Arizona, other than the fact that I don't think that Antonio Brown is, it sounds like a dating show, in it for the right reasons. I hear that like all the time, whatever it is. But I think he just wants the money and he wants to be the guy and doesn't really care about winning. That's just my personal opinion. That would fit in Arizona. They have the space. They have a new quarterback. Larry Fitzgerald's on the last year of his deal. Christian Kirk will be a slot wide receiver there for him. David Johnson is an elite running back in the backfield. They need to add some pieces. The problem is what do they really give up? Does an early second get Antonio Brown? I don't think so. Maybe. Do they want to trade the number 1 overall pick for him? I can't see that either. There's just I don't know how that one would logistically fit, but I think it fits what he wants. I know Patrick Peterson went on social media and was trying to get Antonio's attention, and it's something where he could go and just be the man. Outside of that, though, logistic-wise, it would take a little bit of, this is going to be the word of the day. You ready? Finagling to make that one work.
I thought you were going to say finesse.
Well, that too. But that's just too easy of a word. I figured finagle is much more of a solid word for the day.
I like it.
All right. Well, hey, those were a few of our options here of what could possibly happen with Antonio Brown. There's a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different options. Where do you think Antonio Brown ends up here, beginning of the 2019 season? Put it down in the comment section. We'd love to hear your opinions and your suggestions, your scenarios. Before we get out of here, make sure if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate the support. And if you do subscribe and you're a new subscriber, put a comment down below there so we can welcome you to Headliner Nation. In the meantime, head over to Twitter. I got both of our Twitter handles up here on the screen. You can find Ryan at drafting_king and me at Fantasy Headliners, FNTSY Headliners. We'd love to be able to communicate with you, reach out to you. We're trying to be one of the most interactive channels out there on YouTube. So make sure you check us out. We look forward to hearing from you, and we will talk to you guys later. Thanks. Have a good one.